So welcome to the Spiritual Hour with myself, Grey Psychic Medium, and today we're talking about the dark night of the soul. Now, before we get started on that, I just wanted to thank everyone last week for sending such positive messages, comments, and emails after listening to last week's podcast. It was quite sensitive, and I really do appreciate all the support from everybody out there, and that's what makes me want to continue doing these podcasts and also helping other people, and hopefully it will encourage other people to also talk a little bit more about things that are difficult. So coming back to this week, what is the dark night of the soul? In short, it's like death and rebirth. What I mean by that is the version of you that you once knew has to break away, has to fade away in a sense. For the new version of you to be reborn, what I mean by that is you have to go through the transformational phase first before you get to that. The belief system that you once knew will change when you go through this period. The version of you that you once knew is going to be a completely different version. It's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And I want to share my story around my dark night of the soul. One of the things that I noticed most of all for myself was my night times was very, very difficult. When I was going to sleep at night, I was waking up in sweats. I was waking up having these very vivid dreams, flashbacks, seeing people that I didn't recognize, places that I didn't recognize. And sometimes it was actually really scary. So much to the point that I didn't want to go to sleep. And I would stay awake until sometimes midday, 2 o'clock the next afternoon, until I eventually couldn't hold my eyes open any longer. It was a really difficult time. Now, that was just one of the signs and symptoms of going through the dark night of the soul. What else do you go through going through this? Well, there's depression. With the depression, it's like no other. There's like not just depression, but the anxiety that comes with it as you start to feel more sensitive to energies around you. There's the crisis breakdown feeling that also comes with this. And then there's a sense of the illusion and seeing through illusions, because sometimes you feel like there's paranoia in the sense of, did I just see that, or am I imagining what I've just seen? And so sometimes it's about seeing through that. Now, going through this for me was really, really difficult. And I know many people online have shared their journey of going through the dark soul of the night. So as well as me finding it difficult to get to sleep, suffering with very deep depression, suffering with breakdowns, there was isolation within this. So I used to take massive amounts of steps back from people and spend 4-5 days on my own without speaking to a soul or even seeing a soul. I understand at the time, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought it was too difficult to be around people. Only in hindsight do I understand now that sometimes you can take too much time for yourself, and this can play havoc with your mind too. So there was the isolation, which also caused the loneliness. And then I would connect with people, and then I'd be around them for an hour or two and think, that's enough for me. And then I'd go back to kind of being like a recluse again and spending days to myself. And again, overthinking, overanalyzing, sensing and feeling all these things around me. Now, with this, the difficult part with this was that you no longer enjoyed the things that you used to enjoy. For myself, I used to love football. Used to love playing football. Used to love watching football. I used to enjoy playing on the PlayStation at this particular time, or any other type of gaming. And these were things that I'd done ever since I was a teenager. All of a sudden, I literally had no interest in them. Didn't matter what was on, didn't matter what game was out, made no difference. I no longer found enjoyment in anything. I would flick through the TV, try and look for something. I'd go from menu to menu. The same as I'd look through my PlayStation, the same when I'd be looking for anything else to do or to watch. It was like I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know what I liked anymore. I didn't find enjoyment in anything at this particular time. I was going through a crisis, an identity crisis. But what I didn't know is I was also going through a spiritual crisis as well. As I started to open to all these new energies around me, my senses was intensified. Not only was I feeling these energies and hearing these buzzings and frequencies in my ear, seeing these visions of people in my mind, and when I close my eyes, see people walking past me. To the point where you almost doing this to yourself, like, is this real? Like, is this real? And it gets to the point where you question yourself and your sanity. For me, it got that bad. I remember calling one of the mental health units, actually. And remember calling them and saying, I can't take this no more. Whatever is going on with me at the minute, I can't take this no more. Can our police come in? And at the time, they told me that unless I'd done something to myself at that particular time, it wasn't an option. But at the time, all I knew is that I needed help, and I needed help desperately. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know what to even research, because I had no psychic friends, no spiritual friends, no mediums that I knew. So I didn't even know where to look. I remember going to the doctors and telling the doctor that I see a video playing in my mind. I said, it's like a video that plays in my mind. And he just looked at me. And I try and explain to him, sometimes they're still pictures, sometimes they're moving pictures, but it's like a video in my mind. What I didn't know at the time is that was called clairvoyance. But obviously my doctor wasn't going to say that, of course, because I suppose that's not what they're trained to look for, in a sense. And they obviously look at all the other options medically before even thinking or considering that. Now, at this particular time, you also find that the belief system that you had, that you'd accumulated over the years of growing up from being a young child to the version of you as an adult right now, all of that changes. It all changes completely. To me, previously, I never would have said that I didn't think that spirit was real. I just had no proof of it. So I was a guy that was on the fence at the time. So I didn't know what was real, what wasn't real. I wasn't a religious person or anything like that. So my beliefs got completely changed through this awakening. Going through the transformational period and understanding that the universe isn't the way that we've grown up to think that it is. The universe is magical in its own way. There is a source, there is a divine of source, and there is something bigger than us out there. when you flip this in your head, for me, someone that grew up non-religious, not really into spiritual things at the time, and all of a sudden I'm seeing things that, must have been spirits at the time. I'm seeing places that may be connected to ancestors or past lives. I'm meeting spirit guides in places through the astral realm, and I'm connecting to all these different things. The confusion in my mind of like, what the hell is going on? It was bizarre. So the set of beliefs that you have start to change through your experience that you've gone through, going through this dark night of the soul. It makes you reprogram yourself. It makes you understand of what you thought was out there or wasn't out there. You'll start to see what is and how it connects to us and through us through this dark night of the soul. It's like you've got to shed away everything that no longer serves your highest good, including limited beliefs. Now, I meet many, many people through private readings that I do. Some have had many private readings, and some it's their first time that they've ever had a private reading. And at the time, they're probably on the fence. Okay, I'll book a private reading with Carl and I'll see how this goes. And then they walk away from me, and it's then up to them, with the evidence that I've provided, for them to ask themselves, is this real? There's things that he told me he couldn't have known. And if he couldn't have known these things, where does this information come from? Because there's no way that this information he's given me is available, so it's got to have come from somewhere. And if you're able to describe, for instance, their mum or their father in spirit, things that they've said, things that have happened, things that are happening right now, then all of a sudden their eyes become open. And then they start to think, there must be something else out there, which again starts to open one eyes. Now, going through this dark night of the soul, there is no set time for necessarily anyone to go through it. It's all in divine timing. And what I mean by that is, when the time is right for you, that's when it will happen. When the time's right for you. For me, I was going through a lot of trauma, a lot of healing, and the only way that I was likely to heal was to go through this awakening, dark night of the soul, to then change this darkness that had been around to the light and to help guide me to the light. But that wasn't easy. Now, when you're in a state of depression, so when you're in this dark night of the soul, there's a lot of depression around you. And so when you're in depression, you're in lower vibrational energy, okay? Now, depending on what you've gone through for your depression or your trauma, etc., to how this affects you. Now, for me, I was having problems physically as well. So physically, I had problems with my lower back, my spine, and in particular, for those that understand chakras and how chakras work, this was around my root chakra, so the base of the spine, the red chakra, okay? I was having problems in this area. Now, those that have gone through trauma will often have blockages themselves in the root chakra. And the way that this manifests physically on your body is you end up having problems with things like spine issues, back issues, disc issues, leg issues, hip issues, knee issues. It can also connect to the private area too, but predominantly it usually tends to connect with mostly the back, the hips, and the knees predominantly. And this is how it manifests physically when there can be blocked energies or trapped energies that you've held on to within your chakras on the body. So for me, I was going through physical issues. I was going through mental issues with the depression, the anxiety, the awakening, the dark night of the soul. It was all together. It was like my whole life had been shook, and all of a sudden tried to shake me up and ask me, who am I? And what is your set of beliefs? How are you going to understand the world that you thought it is to the world that I know it is now? Now what I understand is everything is energy, whether it be you, me, your home, the spirit world, everything is energy. And what I also understand is when there's low energies and higher energies. And when we're in a state of depression, yes, there is lower vibrational. And to help you to come through some of this, you can also do things like meditation, yoga, chanting, singing bowls. These are just a few things that you can do, like sound healing. These are a few things that you can do to also help raise your vibration in between any inner work, therapy work, shadow work that you may be doing as well. So these are things that can help you in between. Now, when you're going through this loss of identity is the way I would describe it. Through this dark night of the soul, there's a massive identity crisis. Who you are, what you're meant to be, what you enjoy, what is your purpose being on this earth? And there's all these questions that you're asking yourself. And you're trying to ask yourself these questions, but also seeking some answers. And when you take a moment to just pause, when you ask these questions, sometimes you may get a feeling in your mind, in your stomach, in your ears, something that may come back and just help give you a little bit of guidance on what it is that you need to do next. How you can overcome these challenges, this darkness, this isolation, the way that you see everything around you, because not everything is the way that you see it. Some things, the way that you see them, are very, very different. And it's almost like there's a path here, and you need to be realigned over here. But in order to get there, you've got to be taken from this path and almost shaken to be taken over here to understand there's something better for you here. But in order to get there, you've got to do all this inner work first. Whatever that healing work is that you've got to do, you've got to go inwards and ask yourself, what is it that I need to heal and why do I need to heal it? And then you need to take time to let go and to find some forgiveness. And whether that's for yourself or whether that's for somebody else, you need to take time to find that. Now, the amount of people that comment on my social media and may say to me, I will never forgive them, Carl. And then I'll reply to them and I will say to them, forgiveness is not for their sake. It's for your sake. Forgiveness frees your soul. It doesn't free them. You don't even have to tell them that you forgive them. You just have to let it go. You just have to find it within your heart to let that go, to not let it burden you, to not let it weigh you down anymore, and to keep you in those lower vibrational energies in order for you to work through that and become the best version of yourself. Because when we heal, the world we see around us is a very different place. You see, a negative mind will always look for negative things. But a positive mind will always look for positive things. So it's a perspective switch. It's the way that you look for certain things. If you look for negative, you'll find it. And if you look for positivity, you'll also find that. And I understand that when we're going through this depression, this dark night of the soul, it feels like at the time that there isn't anything positive. However, there is, but we just don't see it. Because what we feel is like a black cloud that's going over our heads and seems to be following us everywhere we go. This cloud seems to follow us. It becomes difficult because you don't know who to talk to. You don't know who's going to judge you. And so it's about finding like-minded people that can help you and advise you, but without judgment. And so you can say that I feel like I'm going through this. Is there any advice that you can give me right now? Because when you're going through this, you don't know who to talk to. And again, from my own experience, this is why I set up the groups that I did on my social medias, to not just connect with like-minded people, but I also set up a group that other people could connect with like-minded people. And they could then join my community, for instance, my one on Facebook, and they could join my community and be part of that. Ask questions, become part of it, and start to understand that we've all got different gifts. And understanding that sometimes it's not the way that we think. Our gifts all work in different ways. But in order to move forward, we have to do that sort of work through ourselves. Understand, what gifts do we have? Now, I believe, in my own opinion, that most of us have the gift within us. We just have to know to access it, how to connect with that, and how to access those gifts within us. Now, like I've said many times, some people can work through their gifts and they're like a natural straight away. Some people can take a little longer to connect to those gifts and bring them out. And sometimes it can take a little bit longer. But I believe that this gift is within many of us out there. We just have to understand how to access it. And particularly when you're going through this dark night of the soul, there's clearly something that's guiding you through this. Something that's asking you to go within. Go within, seek the light within you. But in order to do that, it feels like that dark tunnel. And you've got to walk through those dark tunnel. And the worst thing about that is you've got to face those demons. Those demons are often our own demons, our inner demons. And we have to let go of those fears. We have to let go of worry about judgment, worry about fears from other people. We have to let go of all of that in order to move forward. And so we worry about sometimes what people might think of us and how they may judge us. But as I often say, opinions only really count if you value their opinion. So if it's from someone that you don't really know, then the opinion doesn't matter as much. It only matters from those that you value their opinion. And I think that's the difference when we worry about judgment from others. When I started my spiritual awakening, I was someone that was very open about it. I'm going through a spiritual awakening. I'm seeing spirit. I think I'm a medium. And I was somebody that was sharing it with as many people as I could, like, wow, I've got this new thing, like, oh my God. And then I know other people that have gone through the awakening that have kept it a secret from friends and family for years and years and years because they're worried about judgment. Maybe it's because of a belief system that's within their family or their network. And for whatever reason, there's fear of judgment. For me, I came out and I was as happy as I could be, in the sense of I was happy to tell people what I could do and how I could do it. Not as a brag, but in a sense I was proud of who I was and who I was becoming. I didn't worry about judgment. There was friends out there that looked at me almost like, what did you just say? And didn't really know what to say to me. But I'd moved on. You see, yes, we was friends 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But the version of me that we was friends with, I was a new person by now. And I was someone that was becoming more within myself, more happy about myself, more proud of who I was becoming. And I didn't necessarily care what friends or people around me were saying, or even be saying behind my back. Because I knew that what I was doing was something that I was happy to do. I was happy to connect to these spirits and help myself or help other people through the work that I did. So I was at a point in my life where I wasn't afraid of judgment. I wasn't afraid of losing people because of their judgment. If they wanted to take a sidestep, good luck to them. For me, it wasn't something that I was worried about in any way. And when you go through the dark night of the soul and your spiritual awakening, quite often people will fall away. Whether that be friends, whether that be family, whether that be colleagues, or whether that be relationships. As your vibration increases and theirs just stays the same, you're no longer on the same vibration. And what you want and what they want then becomes different. And so friendships or relationships can fall away, and even family members can fall away. And whether it's yourself or them that do that, that can happen too. Because your vibration has changed, your set of beliefs have changed, and you walk your path, but you walk your path with your head held high and with that inner respect for yourself. There's going to be people out there that may judge you, but again, remember that their opinion only counts if you value their opinion. And if not, it's just another opinion. And that is just something that you've got to come to terms with. It's about becoming proud of the person that you are becoming through this awakening stage, coming through this dark night of the soul, navigating the challenges that you've come through. Because you see, with some friendships, when some people are low and you've got this friend group, and that's okay because you're kind of low, but then when you're in a better space, sometimes they don't recognise you or you don't recognise them, whichever way round. And it's almost like the relationship changes them because you're doing okay and you're looking forward to things, and the relationship seems to change because you're not this person that's down anymore. You've gone through that. You've done the healing work. Now, for me, it wasn't easy. You know, I had 6 years of counselling work that I went through on and off. I went through several medications to help me with depression and anxiety and things like that. I went through hypnotherapy, and again I found that helpful too. So there was different types of healing work that I was doing in order for me to come through. You see, when you know that you've got some sort of issue or problem, whatever that may be, the first thing you've got to do is admit that firstly you've got a problem that needs helping, whatever that problem may be. And that was the point where I remember going to the doctors and obviously talking about my depression and them telling me that there was a two-year waiting list to see somebody. And at that particular time, I actually felt broken. And I'm going to be dead honest, I didn't know how I was going to get through the next 2 years without seeing somebody, without speaking to somebody. I thought the system's broke. It's literally broke. And I couldn't understand how I was going to get through that. Now, I had a lot of support from a partner, but I also understand for my partner it was very difficult too, because I was trying to get her to understand what I was going through, but sometimes they can't understand what you're going through unless they're going through that themselves. And I realised as time goes on, it's actually a little unfair for me to expect them to understand what I'm going through if they've not gone through it. I can tell them, but I can't expect them to understand. And I remember going through this and often thinking, she doesn't understand. And of course she did. But there was times when I think what I expected was too much, because to be inside your head and to go through this transformation is very, very difficult. To go through from not seeing anything one day to seeing spirit guides and spirits and angels. I was literally seeing demons. I was seeing those too. But I later realised that the demons I was seeing was my own. And I remember I used to go out and sit in the garden at night time. I used to love sitting out at midnight, just looking up at the stars. And I remember that when I'd go out there, particularly through this time, I'd go out there and all of a sudden I'd start to feel a bit anxious. And it was like I felt like I was surrounded by all these dark energies of sorts, or my demons, if you like. Until one day, I had this moment to get in the garden and realise that I wasn't going to go back inside and hurry inside because of what I felt was around me. It was time to face those demons and time to face my fears, what was going on within me. And I later realised it was very symbolic for me to understand it was my own demons I now needed to face, and to not necessarily let the fear rule me, but to start to work on how I could work through these before it kind of went a little bit like that in my head. Now, when you're going through this, the only way I can describe it to you is you feel like you're losing the plot. It's the only way I can describe it to you. You feel like you're losing the plot. So you feel like nobody understands you, nobody can see what you see, nobody can hear what you hear, or even feel what you feel. And then you feel like, is it your imagination? And so it's really hard to put into words what you're feeling and what you're experiencing going through this dark night of the soul. But it's about you having to go within to reconnect to your child self, do the shadow work, and start to work through any problems and issues that you've had. It's almost like the crisis that you're going through effectively is like a spiritual crisis. It's about you having this set of beliefs that you was taught, which I would say in some senses was like an indoctrination. And then having this set of beliefs that made your eyes open so wide that you made your mind up from your own experience, not from what you've been told, not from what you've been taught, but from what you've experienced yourself with your own eyes or your ears or what you felt. It's those moments that then lead you to walk this path of enlightenment, because as you've started to do this inner work and connect with the shadow side of yourself, to shift those limited beliefs, to work through those fears and demons, to then start to find this beautiful light that helps to guide you along the way. You see, when people go through spiritual awakening, I see so many people online talking about, I'd love to open my third eye, how do I do this, etc., etc. I always answer with the same thing. It's not peaches and creams. It's just not. It's like yin and yang. There's good and there's bad. There's good to the work that we do, but there's difficult periods that you go through at the same time. So it's about finding the balance between the two. In order to work in the light, you've got to work through that dark. And that's where the balance comes in. And making sure that when you do start to connect with your guides, your inner self, the divine, you do it from a place of love. You see, to work through this truly, the only way to really come through this period is to forgive and to love. You see, love being the highest vibration, and forgiveness also helps us to let go of that negative, low vibrational energy of bitterness, resentment, anger. They're all low vibrational energies, and they're all going to manifest on you physically. When you let go of those and you start to vibrate higher, they can help you also move forward. Then the people that you start to connect with may be more on a higher vibrational. But remember, some people won't recognize you because you've changed. This version of you that they knew no longer exists. This version of you now is a truth seeker. This version of you is no longer blinded by what you was taught or what you was read. This version of you sees through the veil. And sometimes that's through the veil of people and their persona, the way that they may speak, but their energy tells you something different now. Because as you start to understand all these different energies, you also start to understand what the energy feels like to you. Whether the energy is telling you the truth or whether the energy is telling you something different. And that's the difference between when you go through this awakening period, you become a truth seeker. We do what we can to work in the light, but to find the truth, to find our divine soul purpose, to understand why we've been put here on this earth plane through this lifetime to come through these particular difficult periods in our life. Now, as I mentioned in last week's podcast, I mentioned that I use my pain that I went through with my trauma as a positive to help other people, to help others understand what they're going through and how to navigate it. You can focus on the pain, or you can focus on what positive that you can do with that, how you can move forward, how you can navigate that, how you can use that energy and manipulate it into something positive. You see, after going through years of depression and going through what I describe as victim mentality, so it's my own description of what I was going through. When I stepped out of that, when Spirit told me, Carl, although that you are a victim, you no longer have to feel like a victim. And when I snapped out of that and understood that the energy I had put myself in, because that's what I'd done, I'd got so used to being in this energy, I had to change and kind of go, although I am a victim, I no longer have to feel like a victim. And I needed this mentality instead to get through this. And yes, it was hard. Yes, I had to learn to let go, to forgive, to see things differently, but also understand, know the good that I could do with the rest of my life. Doing the work that I do as a psychic medium and as a clairvoyant, I see sometimes difficult things in readings. Some things can be difficult to see, and sometimes I'll see it symbolically instead, which is sometimes better. But I also know what I'm seeing and how I can give that in a reading, and whether to recognise when I say to someone, I know that you're going through an awakening period right now, and I feel like you should be doing this or doing that. Something else that I think's really important through the dark night of the soul is I feel like you don't feel present in your mind. It's like you walk from A to B or drive from A to B and sometimes go, look, how did I even get there? It's like you've missed the journey in the middle. You've gone in autopilot. And all of a sudden you didn't know how you'd walk that 30 minutes or even drove that 30 minutes. You're literally in autopilot. It's like you're not present in here. And I would highly recommend anyone that's going through this right now to take time out and to try and do some guided grounding meditations just to ground your energy and just make yourself just feel a little bit more present, particularly when you're going through this, because I had a lot of out-of-body experiences going through this as well. I remember I was laying down, but I could see myself standing up over the sofa looking down at my own body. So I was having out-of-body experiences whilst I was going through this. And so I'd highly recommend you take time out to ground your energy. And a good way of doing this, if you can't find a good one, imagine a tree, a really like kind of old tree with a wide stump at the bottom. And imagine standing on the ground, barefooted next to this tree. And imagine roots growing out from your feet, going deep, deep, deep down into the soil and ground your energy. So like the roots are pulling you down to the ground and pulling you back to the earth rather than going back up in the air where we feel a little bit woo. So there's that feeling of needing to ground yourself, because not only will it help you feel less spaced out at times, but it will also help with your anxiety as well, because that's another problem that you get quite a lot going through this transformational period. Now, when you come through this, because there is a period where it doesn't obviously go on forever, but it's about how long it takes for you to do the inner work. So not everyone's will be like 5 years or 6 years like mine was. If you're someone that realizes after 6 months or 12 months, it's time for me to really work hard and do the inner work, then you may come through it quicker than I did. But there was a lot of denial with me where I wasn't ready to face it, a lot of denial with it. However, when you start to come through this transformational period and start to come to the point where you've gone through the death And now you're starting to come through the rebirth. This is the part where the new version of you glows. There's like a golden aura around you wherever you walk. There's a feeling that you have in your heart. I remember having this feeling. It was like my heart chakra had opened, and it was like I'd been sent like a million love hearts sent to me through my chest. This feeling of oneness, enlightenment, this feeling of love was probably the best feeling I've ever had in my life. And I've had it once, and this was from my awakening. If you could bottle that feeling, it would be amazing. This feeling around my heart as the energy started to move, as I let go of this pain around my heart through all the hurt that I'd gone through, and as I started to heal that and this energy shifted, all of a sudden this feeling that I could feel in my heart was one of the most beautiful feelings I could ever describe. I remember trying to describe it to my partner, and obviously she understood what I was saying, but it was like, it was so overwhelming, it made you want to cry, but with happiness. That's the only way I can describe it. A beautiful feeling as you start to come through the other side. Then you start to seek all these answers. So you've had your answers in regards to, connecting with your guides, or understanding that there is something bigger out there, a divine of some sort, the source, whoever you might want to call them. And then you start to go deeper. Now, Spirit made a deal with me where they said, Carl, if you help us, we'll help you. That was the deal. And I remember going through the beginning part, and I remember people saying to me about, you need to find a mentor to help you come through this. And I remember saying to Spirit at the time, who's my mentor? And they replied, we are. And so other people may have a physical mentor, but me, I was told that they was my mentor. Now, obviously, sometimes I can be, hard to understand some things, of course. But it was like, I almost felt like, well, how come I've not got a physical person? How come I've got, somebody else? But actually, through the teachings that they gave me along the way of understanding how I can connect, whether it be with his spirit guide, whether it be with spirit itself, whether it be to go through a meditation and do some healing work, etc., etc. It was actually probably the best form of healing I could have ever had, because I know I'm not great at listening and taking orders from people, which I'm pretty guilty of, but when it comes to working with spirit, I take it very, very seriously. And I do take all the advice that they give me, or at least I try to. And when they're telling me that I've got to do certain things or look in different ways, different perspectives, the way that I see things or how I can see things, and how I can have a shift of perspective. So I'd gone from these very difficult nights, this depression, this crisis, this breakdown, this isolation, this darkness. I can only describe it as I felt like a burden to people at the time. It was like they knew I had a lot going on when I was going through this, but it was like I felt like a burden. It's the only way I can describe it. I'd kind of try and talk to people, but then realise there was a lot of sort of negative that came with it. And it almost felt like a burden to people, almost like, a conversation that would always turn a certain way. And then I started to realise that some of this stuff that I had to work on myself, it wasn't just about sharing it with either friends or family. It was about working through it myself and understanding that the work that had to be done couldn't be done by a doctor, by a therapist, by a tablet. It had to be done by me. The healing work is our responsibility. It's about us being prepared to do the healing work. Yes, there may have been someone that hurt us, but the healing work is our responsibility to do. And so sometimes we're looking elsewhere for this healing, but it was within us the whole time. We just needed to take almost like a bird's eye view of the situation, to see it as an outsider, to understand whether it was an attitude change, a perspective change, a forgiveness, the way that we focused on one thing rather than focusing on moving forward. Instead of focusing backwards, try and be present now. Because when we look back, we're going to feel a lot of emotions, of course. When we look too far forward, that can sometimes make us feel uncertain. And so becoming present in today's present moment right now is the only time that you can change anything. You can change your future right now, today. And start with maybe everything that you need to write down on paper. Get it out of your head. Anything that you've gone through, anything that you're going through, anything that weighs you down, get it on paper. Start making some changes today, because they're all within you. It's all something that you can do. We can't expect our friends and our family to do this work. It's something that we can do. And if you start today, maybe in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, the way that you look at life and see the universe and the divine and everything around it will be completely different. But it's your responsibility to do this. And when you do this, you will thank yourself. When you connect with that energy within inside you that it's been bursting to get out, the energy of understanding that what you've gone through has held you back for too long. But if you do this work now, you can completely change your life moving forward for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or however long that may be. It's about something that you can do today. Now, as a man, I encourage people to talk about their feelings, of course. Staying inside their head can be very difficult. And being a man that's gone through this and mental health and things like that, I hope I encourage others to give themselves the time to think about things, to process things, to talk about things, and to not let it stay in there. If you are someone that's curious, that's listening on this podcast right now, and you want to become part of a community, I do have a group on Facebook. I'm also on the other platforms, but my group on Facebook is the Grey Wolf Spiritual Community. And that's where other spiritual-minded, like-minded people come and connect in my group. And there may be people that ask questions of each other. But I think that you need to be in a place where you need to feel understood. A place where we're all curious. Some are further ahead on the journey, but some are the beginning. Some are asking questions. Some are posting things. But it's about you understanding the journey of coming through that darkness to find the light. But you've got to come through it and got to believe that you can come through it. And over time, My night times are not as disturbed as they used to be. I have the odd vivid dream, but nothing like I used to have. I've come through that. I've come through the depression. I no longer take any antidepressants of any kind, and I haven't done for years. I don't have therapy anymore. So I've come from a place where I was having just about every treatment there was. And then I got to a place where I understood that this healing, if I went through this, I could change the course of my life moving forward. And that is exactly what I did. Now, just for the next few minutes, I just want to try a simple little meditation with you guys, just to help you clear anything from your aura that you may also be feeling right now or you've been going through. So I just want you now to just gently close your eyes. And I want you now to take in a nice, deep breath. And exhale. I want you now to visualize your aura around you. And as you start to visualize this aura around you, I want you to visualize white and golden going around you, above you, and underneath you. Now taking a nice deep breath. And exhale. I want you now, in your mind, to tell yourself on your next 3 exhales, you're going to let go and release any negative energy that no longer serves your highest good. Taking a nice deep breath. And exhale, blowing out all that negative energy you've been holding on to. Again, taking a nice deep breath. And exhale. Again, letting go of any negative energy that no longer serves you. And again, taking one more deep breath. And exhale. As you start to exhale, you start to feel your body starts to feel lighter. As you start to blow away everything that no longer serves your highest good. As you start to feel your vibration increase around you with every breath that you take, taking another deep breath. And gently exhale. As you start to exhale, you notice that you have shifted this energy that you've been holding on to. When you're ready, I just want you to gently open your eyes and remember, you can come back and do this anytime you wish, when you need to, on this podcast. Also, I have a guided meditation on my YouTube channel for anyone that may be interested. This one is also for connecting with spirit or spirit guides, so feel free to give that one a try as well. And I will be adding some more meditations to my playlist in the very near future. So this is the part where I thank you all for listening today. I really do appreciate all of you guys tuning in, and I'm going to leave you with a question. What do you feel like you've learned about yourself from today's podcast? I want you to let me know in the comments of this past podcast, wherever you're watching it. Until next time, thank you all for watching. I'm Grey Wolf Psychic Medium, and I'll see you all next time on the Spiritual Hour.